Good Monday afternoon to you. 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Hope you had a great weekend. It was not a great weekend for the Cleveland Browns. Browns lost to the Falcons down in Atlanta. Another game they could have won. Another game that got away. Kevin Stefanski today talked via Zoom with the media about losing another one that they could have won.
Obviously disappointed, like we talked about yesterday, frustrated. You work really hard to go down there and get a win as a team. And we don't come away with that. There's always good. There's always things that you want to continue to do. And when you don't do it, it's very, very frustrating. Having said that, we know where we are. We know we got an AFC opponent coming to our place this week. So we got to make sure that we learn from it and then move on.
And with that, let's welcome in Scott Petrak, Browns beat reporter for the Elyria Chronicle-Telegram. You can also catch him brownzone.com on the internet. Scott, they're going to look back at the Jets and the Falcons games, and when you can win games and should win games, you better win them.
There's no doubt. I mean, it stings now, right? That Falcons loss stings. The Jets one certainly did. But you think it's going to haunt them down the road. And maybe it doesn't. Maybe they get really hot. But it sure feels like you had to win at least one of them. And then you'd be 3-1. You'd be atop the division. You wouldn't be tied with Cincinnati and Baltimore. You have a little bit of cushion going into this really tough part of your schedule. Yeah, so they feel certainly like wasted opportunities.
And when you look at it, Marcus Mariota completed 7 passes, 7 of 19 for 139 yards and 1 interception. They just ran the ball. And let's take a look. A 10-play, 75-yard drive, all running plays in the second half, and none of them to their top back, Cordell Patterson. That was Tyler Algier, and then Caleb Huntley gets in for the touchdown. The Falcons ran the ball 35 times, 202 yards, 2 touchdowns, almost 6 yards a carry. I know the Browns were depleted up front, but you got to find a way to get that done. And there were spots where they didn't, but you kind of got the sense as the game went along, they can't stop them.
Yeah, I wondered what took them so long, right? Because the Falcons didn't do a whole lot in the first half. They had one drive, and then they got the Njoku fumble and converted that into points. And that's about it, right? The Browns had a 2-1 yardage advantage at halftime. And then the Falcons, I think they go 3-and-out interception to start the third quarter. And, I think if you're the Browns, you felt pretty good. And then Arthur Smith, the Falcons coach, said, okay, we're going to run it. And the Browns didn't have an answer. Now, I do think not having Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney and Taven Bryan and even Anthony Walker Jr., the linebacker who's done for the season, I think those injuries are really important and played a big factor in the Falcons being able to run the ball like they did. But that's not an excuse. You need to get off the field. Like Kevin Stefanski said, you need to make one stop, and the Browns didn't come close. I mean, those were big gash runs over and over on that drive and then the next drive to put them in field goal position again. So, yeah, it's really disappointing. It's kind of like the Browns are used to doing that to other teams, and the Falcons said, no, we're going to do it to you, and they had all the success in the world doing it.
Kevin Stefanski talked about that Falcons run game and just kind of searching for answers for it.
They committed to the run there in that drive and in the second half, and it's never one thing. I thought we played hard. There were times that we executed really well. There's times that maybe it's one guy here or there. Certainly you want to put the guys in position to go make plays, but in those moments you got to find a way to get them off the field. And a lot of times that can be pursuit related. That can be making sure that we're assignment sound, all those things. But you have to find a way to get them off the field.
And the thing of it is, Scott, if Garrett and Clowney are unable to go, it's gonna be another struggle. You're not gonna have Walker back. He was your best run defender. Phillips is still kind of a work in progress, I think.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think they were losing the battle at the line of scrimmage, and then they were losing it at the second level. Felt like Jacob Phillips took a lot of wrong angles, filled the wrong gaps, and that allows, if it's a 5-yard run to turn into a 12-yard run or whatever that is, the difference. And that's tough. That can't happen. And then you're forced, if you're Joe Woods, a coordinator, to put a safety or 2 in the box. And then that opens you up to, susceptible to the big passing play down the field. So hopefully they get some guys back, but they need to shore it up from a scheme standpoint too. And that means I'm not saying the Joe Woods' fault. I'm saying the players need to know where they have to be and not get carried away and not fall for some of the misdirection that the Falcons got him on. Because there were some huge, huge holes where you see the whole defense go this way, and like there's one guy left to handle, three blockers and a running back. That's just not going to work.
Yeah, and it was almost that entire drive. It seemed like that was the situation they were putting themselves in. All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about that game against Falcons.
Hi, this is Ernie from Virginia calling again. This time I'm going to have to dump this on Stefanski once more. His play calling at the end of a close game has really been pretty pitiful. With 3 minutes to go, Nick Chubb's not in the game against a prevent defense. Just makes no sense at all. Hunt's a great player, but Chubb can get 10 yards at a pop against that kind of defense and get us in field goal range. I just don't understand why he does what he does. And that's all I have to say.
As always, appreciate it. There's a lot of blame to go around, Scott, but no timeouts. So let's preface that. And I think you're seeing some of the limitations of Jacoby Brissett. He's played well. He's not a reason, but you don't want to say, here's the ball. You have no timeouts. You got to get us to X spot to get this game tied or won.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. He did it against Carolina, right? He made two big throws against Carolina and got it done. But yeah, you can't ask him to do it every week. I don't think you can ask him to play like he did against the Jets and the Steelers every week. That's, if he did, then he'd be a top, 15 quarterback. So you're going to have some regression, I think, and some inconsistency. Just because he's a, backup quarterback or bridge quarterback, however you want to phrase it. The caller's point about Kevin Stefanski, I had some issues with the play calling, mostly inside the 5. When you get to the last 2 minutes, at the screen, he had a screen out up to Kareem Hunt that I think would have worked, but the timing was off, and then Joe Bitonio gets called for an eligible man downfield. And it's tough to call plays in that situation. I understand fans think, man, you got to have Nick Chubb on the field. They haven't had Nick Chubb on the field in that situation in 3 years. It's Kareem Hunt. That's what they go to. They go to Kareem Hunt in the 2-minute drill, because that's how they practice it. He's a better receiver than Nick Chubb. He's probably a better pass protector than Nick Chubb, and that's a role that Kareem Hunt is good at, and he can get 10 yards a pop too. So I don't really agree with the criticism there, the personnel criticism. I think Kareem Hunt is fine in that situation. Having said that, I think Stefanski needed to do a better job in the first half when they got inside the 5-yard line. They had 3 drives down there, and they wound up with 10 points, and you need more than that. You probably need 17 points, and that could have been the difference in the game.
Yeah, and to your point, it's really tough to run in those situations. I get fans wanting them to do that, but the problem is if you run the ball, you're tackled in bounds, it's going to be the clock is going to not stop. They will get up slower. You'll get probably 2 fewer plays for every run play that you run versus a pass play.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know if it's, is it 28 seconds as opposed to a pass could be 18 seconds, even if it's in bounds. The coaches know those numbers. And, if you're getting 15 yards a pop, then it doesn't matter. But what if he gets tackled for a 2-yard gain? Then you got to bring all the receivers back. It's just not really practical to do that. And defenses, if they see Nick Chubb, then they're more aware for a run. And I don't think they have the same – they're not on, high alert for a run when Kareem Hunt's in the game like that, because that's his normal role. So I get the frustration of not having Nick Chubb on the field, but I don't agree with it.
Yeah. And I'm more on your side of things with you need to get points when you're inside the 5-yard line, especially with this running game and this quarterback, as opposed to throwing them. All right, this from one of your articles, 4 takeaways from another loss that should have been a win. Close calls, dropped calls, final failure, no resistance. So take us through that.
Yeah, the close calls is kind of what we talked about inside the 5. They on 4th and 3 on that first drive, I'm fine going for it there. I know some people think you kick a field goal. I like the aggression. I thought it was going to be a high-scoring game and you need touchdowns, not field goals. But it didn't look like they had a great play design for 4th and 3. I mean, they put 3 guys out in patterns. They keep Harrison Bryant and Nick Chubb in the block. And, it just didn't feel like there were enough options for Jacoby Brissett. Then they get down on the goal line. They get 1st and 1. Nick Chubb gets stuffed. That's fine. You go jumbo again with Michael Dunn and Yelda Furholt, the 2 offensive linemen. And then Kevin Stefanski calls the throw. And it wasn't even play action. It was just a drop back. And I'm sure he thought he'd catch the Falcons off guard, but he didn't. Both receivers went out and they're double teamed. And then Jacoby Brissett winds up scrambling. Wyatt Teller gets called for a hold. It messes up that whole drive. So, I know that plenty of times you see the play action and the tight end pops wide open and it's an easy touchdown. But when it doesn't happen, it's easy to say, hey, just run Nick Chubb 4 times, you're going to score. Or sneak Jacoby Brissett, who's really good on sneaks. And having those 2 options makes it less attractive and maybe less understandable to call a pass there. The screen game, it didn't work all day. And that's something that the Browns have been really good at since Stefanski took over. They were a poor screen team under previous coaches. They're really good with him, but it didn't work. And whether it was the timing was messed up, the Falcons were all over it. If Brissett needed to fit a ball in and he didn't, because I thought they had some opportunities, even after that Wyatt Teller hold near the goal line, they had a screen set up to Hunt, but Grady Jarrett got in the way. Jacoby Brissett hesitated and then threw kind of at Kareem Hunt's feet. And instead of it being a touchdown, he settled for a field goal. So, I think there are a bunch of reasons, but when that doesn't happen, when kind of one of your go-to elements of the offense doesn't happen, then you struggle and you only score 20 points.
Yep. And again, now the good news is everybody in the division is 2-2 or 1-3. The bad news is this is the tougher part of the schedule straight ahead. So, again, we'll get into that a little bit. Scott Petrick and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout, other side of the play. Another breakdown on defense. We'll take a look. Sports4CLE will be right back.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Well, Browns defense did again big play that led to what was the eventual game-winning field goal. Ken Stefanski talked about another breakdown in that secondary.
Sometimes it's miscommunication. In this case, just didn't play a technique how we want to. And that's unfortunate. And those are the type of things where big plays can happen when we get out of a gap or we miss an assignment, whatever it is. But the bottom line is we own this as a team. We own the wins as a team. We own the losses as a team. And similarly, players and coaches, there's plenty of stuff that we can all clean up.
All right, so let's take a look at exactly what we're talking about, that broken play. And again, you see it is in that tie game, deep in their own ends, and there's nobody near them. I mean, and it gets the ball past midfield. Now, instead of thinking, that was on a 2nd and 10, and instead of thinking, we're in trouble, now you're thinking, let's go win the game, and that's pretty much what they did. Scott, it's got to stop. It's becoming a trend.
Yeah, I do think this was different than the other two. Dave, like the other two felt like just miscommunications and guys running free. Now, this guy ran free too, but I think it was more the coverage versus the Falcons play call. You saw play action, so you saw the linebackers all get sucked up, which creates a huge void in the middle of the defense. And then, when Kevin Stefanski's talked about technique, I don't know if he's talking about the linebackers there or if he's talking about, like Denzel Ward runs with Drake London deep down the left, and John Johnson, the third, the safety, kind of turns to run with them too, and then sees the receiver come underneath, and then it's too late to react. So I don't know which one of those guys maybe should have been in that void. But, sometimes the offense calls the right play against your defense. He had extra time to throw. The linebackers bought the play action, and it winds up leaving a guy wide open. So obviously it can't happen, but it feels different to me than the play against Carolina and the play against the Jets, where like it was almost like they purposely let the guy run free because they weren't on the same page. This felt different to me.
Well, again, it's happened enough that they got to get that fixed in a hurry, obviously. The defense obviously had not so good of a day. Denzel Ward graded out pretty high, but as we take a look at these, and again, I get it, it's Pro Football Focus, it's kind of subjective, but 54.1 for Newsome, 53, 53, 47, 38, 34, couple in the high 20s. That gives you an idea of how rough of a day it was for the Browns defense.
Yeah, it was, and a lot of that goes to those running drives we talked about, right? Starting at the end of the third quarter. I mean, to then they had 10 points, right? And then the Browns give up touchdown, field goal, and you lose the game. Yeah, some of those grades are a little weird. Like, I didn't think Denzel had the interception, which was a good play. But he might have been responsible for that deep play we just talked about. He certainly got the face mask at the end of it. I thought on Patterson's touchdown run, Denzel lost contain on that side of the field, and Patterson scored with Denzel trying to stop him. And then JOK, like, he missed a couple of sacks, but I felt he was around the ball. He pressured the quarterback. He blitzed a lot. So, he's probably in the wrong gap sometimes, but I thought at least he was active and affected the game. So that grade felt a little low to me.
All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about a continuing theme with the Browns in the fourth quarter.
Hi, Dave Howard from Marin County. Very disappointed about another fourth quarter collapse. How can we prevent that? Also, what can we do to shore up the line? Because I think we're in for many, many, many losses because they'll just run the ball right up the middle. Any thoughts about any trades? Sorry to say that I believe the Browns will end up below 500, and the Indians are the best team in Cleveland, and I wish the city would support them. Thank you.
All right, as always, appreciate all the voicemails. So it's got if I'm sure if Kevin Stefanski had the answer to the fourth quarter, it would be implemented already. But it's a question that bears repeating.
Yeah, obviously it needs to be corrected. I don't have a great answer for it, right? Because you could point to, some defensive breakdowns, yes. A couple of late Jacoby Brissett interceptions, but again, that was after the defense collapsed, after the special teams collapsed versus the Jets. So I don't pin a ton on him. But you can't have that happen, right? You can't give up that many points in the fourth quarter. I don't know if the defense is getting worn down, if they're tired. But they rotate a bunch of guys, so you wouldn't think that would be it. But that's how you lose ball games, right? Almost every game in the league is decided in the fourth quarter, so you can't let that happen. And as far as the D-line, I think it's as simple as hoping and waiting for Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney and Taven Bryan to get back, because I don't see a great answer out there. It's going to come in and all of a sudden this guy's going to start playing 80% of the snaps on the D-line and fix things. I just don't think that's the case. So I think you need your horses to get back, and until they do, which could be as early as Sunday, but until they do, I think you're going to have to figure out other ways to work on defense and then win games, right? If that's scoring a bunch of points or doing stuff on special teams, something to make up for the deficiencies on defense.
It is a copycat league, and I would expect, with the success the Falcons had, teams may start looking to try to expose that running game a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. And I hate to keep beating the same horse, but if you have Garrett and Clowney, like those guys are good edge setters. Yep. They're kind of a force on the line of scrimmage. So
Scott Petrick and I are going to step aside, take another timeout, other side of the break. We'll talk a little bit about Jacoby Brissett and some more of the offense. Sports for CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to Go Forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Maybe cliche, but there's no I in team. The only identity that matters is we. The collective effort to love thy neighbor is needed now more than ever. The responsibility behind pronouns such as I, me, and mine impact we, us, and ours. So understand that you make all the difference in the team. He, him, her, or she can't disturb our peace, since we control our destiny as student athletes. This is the power of pronouns.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Scott Petrick from the Elyria Chronicle-Telegram. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about yesterday's game.
Sam from Youngstown. Stefanski, why are you trying to be cute? You had the best running back in the NFL, and you don't pound the rock. You're not an offensive play calling juggernaut. Just do what it takes to win. Why do you always play down to the competition? You know we are playing shorthanded, and you want to play catch-up on the last drives at the end of the game that you lost with a backup quarterback. You are putting Brissett in that situation, man. Come on. He's a backup. Stefanski, just win, baby. Defense, you stink. Plain and simple. Your thoughts. Thanks for taking my call. Love the show, man. Thank you.
All right, as always, appreciate all of our passionate fans. Scott, when I thought about this one, and we've talked a little bit about it, initially I thought, you take the 3 points early because you're going to have a backup defense. But that is also the reason that you try to go for the 7. And they did convert 2 fourth downs that enabled them to get touchdown drives. So the thing that really jumps out, though, is they had an even split between passing and running. So Jacoby Brissett threw the ball 35 times. They ran the ball 35 times. I don't think you want a 50-50 split when Jacoby Brissett's your quarterback.
Yeah, that's interesting. Regarding the fourth downs, I think fans are going to have to get used to it. And it's not only Kevin Stefanski. That's the way of the NFL right now. You saw John Harbaugh go for it on fourth down in a tie game and pass up a field goal with Baltimore. It just, the numbers tell you to go for it, and people are listening to the numbers, which seems to make sense to me. So fans are just going to have to get used to it. Now, that doesn't mean the play calling can't be better inside the 5 like we talked about. And I'm not saying you can't just pound Nick Chubb, right? Because they tried to run him outside on 3rd and 1. Maybe they got cute because they went no huddle there. You can argue they got cute on 2nd and 1 in the second quarter. So I get the caller's point, certainly. Throw it more than you run it, the vast majority of the team. So, yeah, maybe it's different with the Browns running game and with Jacoby Brissett. I think those numbers get a little bit skewed when you have the 2-minute drive, and you probably threw it 6 times in the 2-minute drive. But your point is taken that the perfect formula for the Browns is to get a lead early and then turn over to the run and wear the clock, eat the clock and wear down the defense. And we've seen them do that. We saw them do it against the Steelers, and it works great. And I think that's always the plan, but that's why you have to cash in when you get those chances early, right? The Browns, the first drive, they took advantage of the Falcons' over-aggressiveness. They ran play fakes. David Njoku's running wide open. Guys are running wide open. But you need to turn that into touchdowns. And when you don't, then all of a sudden it becomes a game that you need your quarterback to make a play late.
Yeah, the other thing that surprised me is the Browns still almost had a 10-minute advantage in time of possessions. It was like 35-24. So they still possessed the ball. I guess the one thing I keep coming back to relative to Jacoby Brissett, don't ask him to go out and win. Have him take care of it and do the little things that he needs to do to keep moving the chains. Don't ask him to go win it. I don't think that's a recipe that and I know Kevin Stefanski probably isn't going to do that.
I agree with you. And, I think you look at some plays that got away early in the game and you said, hey, they wouldn't have been in that situation late. And I think about those couple of screens that didn't happen. And maybe Brissett's just a little quicker or a little more confident in the screen. They turn into big plays. The first play of the third quarter when the Browns had the ball, they ran play action and they had Peoples-Jones open on a deep corner, and Brissett just threw it wide, threw it out of bounds. Peoples-Jones made a great diving catch, but he was out of bounds. It was similar to the play that they ran that moved them down to the 1-yard line at the end of the first half. And if you can hit those plays where there's not a ton of pressure game situation, there's not a ton of pressure from the defense because it's a play action. If you hit those plays early, then it doesn't come down to the end. And I thought Brissett made those kinds of throws the previous 2 weeks, and he wasn't as effective against Atlanta.
Yeah, that's very fair. All right, let's take a look at updated QBR rankings. This is from Jake Trotter. And you see Mahomes is 1 at 82.4. Geno Smith is 6th. Herbert, who's coming into town with the Chargers, 7th in the league. Jacoby Brissett is 9th. So you're getting pretty good quarterback play. Look down there at 32. Baker Mayfield, 15.4. And there's some talk that he could end up getting benched. But relative to Jacoby Brissett, he's playing well enough. He's played well enough. You probably should be 4-0.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I think we'd look at Brissett a whole lot different, right? If he wasn't charged to go win 2 games late and the Browns are taking care of what they should have taken care of, you're talking about a 4-0 quarterback. So, and I think the QBR speaks to that. It also speaks to the fact that he's effective with the quarterback sneak. He had that scramble for a touchdown yesterday. ESPN factors some of that into the QBR versus the strict passer rating. So, yeah, I think if you take a step back, you say, hey, the Browns are pleased with how Brissett's played through 4 games. And if he plays at his best, then they do have a chance to beat some of these tough teams coming up. But he needs to play better than he did against Atlanta, and the team overall needs to play better.
All right, before we head to break, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about where the Browns sit right now.
Dave, as long as you allow me to speak my opinion to the voicemail of Truth and Reason each week, I again would like to state Kevin Stefanski is on the hot seat. And again, here's why. We have 2 of the best running backs in the NFL, and both should be playing most of the time together. As an example, on the touchdown to Chubb, Hunt flanked to the left side, went in motion. The defense did not know if he might get the handoff or a short pass, but they faked that and handed the ball to Chubb for the touchdown. Dave, we have 2 backup running backs from the sidelines ready to give Chubb or Hunt rest if needed. Atlanta had no problem using backup running backs to run the ball 11 straight times at our defense for a touchdown. Stefanski, again, does not use his strength to the fullest and run the ball in different ways until the defense can stop us. We should be 4-0. And my last statement is, Stefanski, when you have 4th down and field goal range, take the 3 points.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails, and we've covered most of that. I don't think Kevin Stefanski's on the hot seat. I just don't.
No, I don't either. I mean, I think it's way too early in the season for that. And I thought he called great games the first 3 weeks. I really did. So, maybe there's a regression in week 4. We talked about the play calls I think he screwed up or want to have back. But overall, I think he's done a good job as a play caller. I think overall he's been good enough as a head coach, right? I mean, it was a couple of years ago they go to the playoffs. So yeah, I don't think he's on the hot seat. I get the frustration from fans, I really do, but you can't run the ball 100% of the time. You have to throw the ball in this league. That's how you get chunk plays. Defenses can stop the run. Now maybe they need to run it a little bit more, but I think you have to have like reasonable expectations. And yeah, they used Chubb and Hunt together, I think 5 times, and I would like to see that package grow because the caller's right on the money. That opened it up. The Hunt motion, whatever, jet sweep motion, opened it up for Chubb to go to the left on that 28-yard touchdown. So, I know the Browns are really careful about overusing those guys, but I think there's room to play them 10 or 15 snaps a game together, and that might increase the productivity of the entire offense.
Yeah, and the point with Dearness Johnson is an NFL caliber running back, and if he needs to get 5 carries, you're not going to lose a whole heck of a lot with him. I'm with you.
Yeah, and I think there is a reluctance right now. It's got to be Chubb or Hunt, so therefore you manage them together. But there should probably be more attention paid to, hey, if we need to go one series with Dearness Johnson or 3 plays, that's not the end of the world. So I think there's some validity to that point.
Scott Petrak and I are going to step aside, take one more time out, other side of the break. We'll look where the Browns are relative to the rest of the AFC. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Scott Petrak. Well, the Browns did make a roster move earlier today. They claimed Drew Forbes, who was here for a while, and then they also waived safety Richard LeCount. So Scott, again, just getting a big body on that offensive line that you might be able to use.
Yeah, I mean, Forbes was here in training camp and got cut late and claimed off waivers. The interesting part of that is LeCount is the first draft pick of Andrew Berry in his 3 drafts to get waived by the team. So, I wasn't sure he deserved a roster spot coming out of camp. And then the Browns obviously felt he was expendable. Could come back on the practice squad, I would think.
Yep, we will see. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about looking forward to where the Browns need to be when Deshaun Watson comes back.
Yeah, hey, I have a comment and then like your response on it. I was just wondering here, the Browns are at 500 now. Do you think that they're supposed to stay at the 500 level before Deshaun gets back or not? Like your comment on that, let me know. Thank you. Bye.
All right, now Deshaun can come back and practice starting next week. But to the caller's point, I think the thought has always been if they can be 6-5, 7-4, they're in good shape.
Yeah, I don't think he can practice starting next week. He can be back in the building.
Meetings, yeah.
I think he's got to wait till November before he practices.
Yep.
But yeah, I think 6-5 is the number, right? I think it's putting too much pressure on Watson to go, 4-2 seems reasonable, especially with the schedule the Browns have late. Ask him to go 5-1 or 6-0. It's just too much. The guys have played in 700 days. So, if you get to 6-5, you can go 4-2 to finish. That gets you to 10 wins. That's probably enough to get in the playoffs. Now, again, I'd feel better if the Browns were 3-1 or 4-0 and saying, okay, all you have to do is get to 6-5, right? The schedule gets harder, so now you got to go 4-3. You got the Chargers, you got the Bengals, the Ravens, the Buccaneers, the Dolphins. Now there's some games you can win in there. Now, like I said, if the Browns play at their best level, they can probably beat anybody. But it's going to be tough. Right now, I probably would not bet on them being 6-5 just because the schedule gets so much harder.
Yeah, finding 4 wins in those next games is going to be tough to do without question. All right, this is from Jake Trotter. Browns now rank 5th in offensive efficiency, 28th in defensive efficiency, 14th in special teams. And it sounds almost like a broken record. Defense has to get it right in a hurry. This was what we thought you were going to lean on with Jacoby Brissett as your starter, the defense and the run game.
Yeah, that's certainly a disappointment, defensively speaking, right? And we talked about the breakdowns, and they've had some injuries back there. I'm sure without the breakdowns, it'd be a lot better, right? If that Jets game ends without those 2 late touchdowns, then the numbers look a lot better. But it didn't end, and they gave up those 2 touchdowns. So it's been a disappointment. I do think that offensive number speaks to people should probably give a break, right? If they're 5th in efficiency and they're playing with a backup quarterback and they don't have a great receiving core, Stefanski must be doing something right as a play caller.
Yeah, I agree. And I always play calling is one of those things. It's that they love you as well. As long as it works, you're doing great. And as soon as it's not working, boy, you're a horrible play caller. It's a no-win proposition for the guy doing it. This is another one that will speak to what we have talked about it getting a whole lot tougher. So at this point, the 2-2 Browns have played the league's 4th easiest schedule, according to ESPN's Football Power Index. Going forward, they face the league's 2nd toughest schedule, including 5 of the Football Power Index's top 8 teams before December. So that's why we were talking about it being very difficult to get to those 6 wins that you want to see before Watson comes back.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I went back and I looked last night because sometimes it changes, right? Beginning of the season, you go, okay, the first 4 games, they're going to be easy, and then stuff changes, right? A quarterback comes out of nowhere, a team comes out of nowhere. But the reality is the Browns played Baker Mayfield and Joe Flacco and Mitchell Trubisky and Marcus Mariota, and 2 of those guys are benched. I mean, Flacco, Zach Wilson came back. Trubisky gets benched yesterday. Baker Mayfield is playing really poorly down in Carolina and getting booed. So that's when the Browns had their chance to kind of make some gravy, is against those quarterbacks. And it just gets a lot harder with Herbert and Burrow and Lamar Jackson and Tom Brady and who knows who's going to quarterback for Miami. But, yeah, so there's no doubt the schedule continues to be harder. I don't think that's changed at all once the season started. It looked like it was going to be hard this stretch, and it's still going to be hard. Now, things can change every week. The Patriots look like they're going to be on their 3rd quarterback when the Browns face them, although they took Green Bay to overtime in Green Bay yesterday. So it's a crazy league, but there's no doubt that the schedule gets much harder.
All right, so we've had a lot of gloom and doom about how poorly the Browns are playing. Because I am the guy I am, I want to leave you with a positive note. So let's take a look at the 2022 AFC playoff seedings as they stand right now. So, again, as poorly as the Browns have played, they would be the 4th seed in the AFC ahead of the Bills. You see there's no unbeatens. There's 2 3-1 teams and a bunch of 2-2 teams. The bottom line is, Scott, if they had done the things that they could have and potentially should have, they'd be sitting in a nice spot at 4-0 or 3-1. 2-2, they got to go out and fight.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, 4-0 seems like a stretch. There's only 1 undefeated team in the league right now, but 3-1 feels like that's where the Browns should have been. They'd have a game-plus edge in the division. I do think the fact that nobody in the division's above 2-2 means that, maybe you can win the division at 10-6. And I don't know if I would have said that before the season, right? Cincinnati's coming off a Super Bowl. Baltimore's got Lamar Jackson back and a bunch of guys back. It felt like maybe somebody would win 12 or 13 games, and that could still happen. But it looks like those teams have some flaws that are going to stick with them. So maybe, 10-6, if the Browns can get there, maybe not only gets them in the playoffs, maybe it gets them the division title, which comes, with the home playoff game.
And the flip side of it is 2-0, you've got that one win in division. So it's definitely ahead of you with the Ravens and the Bengals. Those games, the old saying is they count twice, and, old sayings are usually true.
Well, you go back-to-back, right? I think it's at Baltimore the 23rd and then home to Cincinnati on Halloween. So, if you get those 2 wins and all of a sudden, let's say the Browns are 5-3, you can start saying, hey, things look a lot better, and there's a road to the playoffs. So, yeah, this is a big stretch coming up.
All right, Scott Petrak, as always, great stuff. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it, Scott.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, Scott Petrak, make sure you check him out. Elyria Chronicle Telegram. You can also check him out, brownzone.com on the internet. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily, straight ahead. We're talking Browns. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
Welcome back to Sports4CLE. We continue talking Browns. This is from the Bleacher Report. 3 takeaways from the Browns' Week 4 loss to the Falcons. Number 1, leaning on the run game has to be a priority. Mentioned a even split, 50-50 split between passing and running in that loss to the Falcons. Defense needs another pass rusher, or they need to get their 2 top ones back. And number 3, Kevin Stefanski needs to alter his coaching strategy. Let's welcome in Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily. Eddie, when you look at those, which of those you thinking? What are you buying? What are you selling there with those 3 ideas?
So the run game I can get behind. I don't need to see Jacoby Brissett throw the ball 35 times in a game. Now, if he is somehow as successful as he was in the first or in the second and third week, okay, then maybe there's warrant for it. And I get not wanting to rush all the time, save Chubb, save Hunt for the year. But Chubb averages about anywhere from 20 to 23 touches a game, and then on the ground, and then Hunt gets roughly about 11 or 12, and so that's the 35 there. Every now and then, we had an Njoku run yesterday for whatever reason, but the run game definitely has to be the benefactor there because that is their bread and butter. That's how they wear on teams. I thought yesterday at the end of the first half. I was like, oh, here's where the Browns take control in the second half, especially if they get a 3-and-out. They did. Then the running game just wasn't there. Kevin Stefanski dialed up some short passes. The screen game was there, but at the same time it wasn't because there was constant pressure on Brissett when that was happening. So it's hard to jump off the ball there. But absolutely need another pass rusher. First off, like you said, need to get the first two back. Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, both dealing with injuries. Hopefully we see one or both of them this week because we're going to need them against a vaunted Chargers passing attack. And with that, we need another depth piece because without them, we have young guys and they should be good in the future. But that's not now. We couldn't expect, a bunch of rookies and younger players to step up this week, and be Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney because no one can be those two. So getting another pass rusher is paramount. I just don't know if that is an edge rusher or a defensive tackle. Hopefully Andrew Berry thinks of something sometime soon because we need it.
Yeah, and again, most of the people that are still out there for a reason. They're just not as effective as they had been. What about Coach Stefanski altering his coaching style? Your coaching style is kind of your coaching style.
Sure, that's what I want to touch on. I want to get the first two out of the way, then get back to Stefanski. He's not going to alter what he does. He is going to be an aggressive coach. His players buy into that. And Njoku said today that he didn't mind going forward on 4th and 3 yesterday. But it's about execution. And Brissett just threw the ball away on that 4th down, on the 4th and goal. They have to execute there. Nick Chubb was wide open. I don't know how easy that is for Brissett to see that, barreling down the sideline like he was, looking for something. But Chubb was there. The play was there. Maybe not exactly how they needed it to go. But Stefanski's not going to alter. If he feels strongly enough that his team can get 2-3 yards or a yard on the QB sneak that Brissett's been doing, he's going to continue to go for that. And I know that the adage is take the points. But a lot of people I've seen on Twitter say, oh, if he would have taken the 3 points, we would have at least went to overtime and had a chance to win. That's not necessarily true because, the Falcons could have went out and scored the next 21 points for all we know. We don't know how that would have played out. It played out how it did, and the Browns had chances to win. And they didn't. And as Stefanski said, they all have to do better, and I expect them to do better this week. Whether that results in a win or a loss, I don't know. But they do have to do better.
All right, let's take a look at the highest graded Browns in Week 4 from Pro Football Focus. Number 1, Denzel Ward, who had the interception, 86.7. The next 4 are all, 3 offensive linemen and a running back, so all involved in that run game, which is not a surprise. What that tells me is the Browns defense has to step it up. Browns D has to get it going.
Absolutely. And I mentioned earlier, what are they supposed to do with the defensive line without 3 of their 4 starters, with Taven Bryan joining Garrett and Clowney on the inactive list this week. But the secondary has been relatively a mess all season. The communication, for whatever reason, is just not there. You would think that in year 3, a lot of these guys are playing their 3rd year together, 2nd year together. You would think that would mean that they have these communication issues down, but they do not. And to see Ward, finally bounce back and have a solid game. He did have the interception. Did have some coverage issues a couple times, but he did make some plays. That's encouraging to see. If we can get Grant Delpit, somehow going on the right track. He always seems to be on the wrong end of busted coverages. I think he was the one. I don't know if he was supposed to be on the guy that caught the ball that was wide open in the middle of the field, but I think he was in the vicinity. So he has to step up, but the defense as a whole has to step up. The players-only meeting, in Week 2, you don't really want to see that. But where are the coaches for that? It should be the coaches and players sitting down and film together. Hey, look at that. I did this wrong. Hey, you could do this better. Anything like that. But the defense absolutely has to step up. But to see the offensive line, I'm not surprised with them. They did their thing. Jedrick Wills, I think, has been playing tremendous for as much flack as he is getting online. But the defense absolutely has to step up with or without Garrett and Clowney in the lineup.
All right, I know you've written an article about this. What do the Browns do to alleviate the absence of Myles Garrett? What can they do?
Sure. So I wrote this yesterday morning. We got the news. Clowney was going to be out, and then Garrett was out. So what do we do without Garrett? And who was also reported could be out 2 to 4 weeks with the AC sprain. Could be back as soon as Sunday. Could be back, the following Sunday. We don't know that. And yesterday I basically said that was going to be an audition period for the young rookies and the young players like the Alex Wrights and the Isaiah Thomases and the Perrion Winfreys. They didn't do horrible, all things considered. They did, get gashed in the second half by a practice squad running back who came in, was fresh. Cordero Patterson was banged up, wasn't taking advantage of that. But the offensive line blocked great. But I thought maybe they'd look into someone this week. And they still could. It's only Monday. I don't know what Andrew Berry's doing right now. I'm not going to pretend like I do. I don't know if he's on the phone with anyone or has been on the phone with anyone. But there's not a whole lot of options out there, as you said, when I first came on. And I looked the other day because I was like, maybe you can add a veteran here, Well, there's not very many edge rushers that are available, and the ones that are available for a reason, like you said. Maybe someone like Ndamukong Suh to try and stop the run and add a veteran leadership. He's been rumored to the Browns without being rumored to the Browns so many times this offseason I've lost count. So really I thought it would be an addition. I thought that it would be a good test for them against the Falcons team that is not very good up front, but they proved to be, and shout out to their offensive line. They pushed our defensive line back a lot, and that's what why the Falcons had success rushing the football, and they ran 10 straight times in the second half.
Eddie McDonald and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we will continue talking Browns. 5 takeaways from the Browns' loss to the Falcons coming up. Stay with us on Sports for CLE.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
Donald from Dog Pound Daily. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about yesterday's game.
Yeah, hi, this is Ken from Dorset, just calling about the Atlanta game. My thought is that they probably could have won that game, but the question is, should have they won that game? My reasoning would be is that you got 3 or 4 players, key players that account for about 40% of the payroll, and just wondering what your thoughts on if they should be winning these types of games. We're still 50%. That's about it. Go Browns. Say.
All right, as always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Eddie, as far as the big contracts taking up chunks, that's kind of life in the NFL. All of the teams that are competitive have those big contracts that eat up a good chunk of their payroll. That's just the way that rosters are constructed.
Yeah, that has to be how rosters are constructed. Each year, the position value goes up, and yesterday's price isn't today's price. And, the Browns know that, so I don't have an issue with the money aspect. It's not my money. I don't control the money. I don't know the first thing about running a team. I don't even run a good team on Madden, so I wouldn't be a good fit for an NFL GM. But should they have won that game? Absolutely, they should have. The Falcons aren't that very good of a football team. Obviously, they beat us, so credit to them. But the Browns were in position to win. They had a fourth quarter lead that they blew yet again. They abandoned the run game just a little bit when I thought they didn't need to. Towards the end, when they were getting in field goal range, I thought a few rushes up the middle, hurry up and do that a couple of times, spike the ball. Maybe Cade York kicks another game winner or game tire this time. That was not the case. But they should have won this game and could have won this game. So I don't care who is out or not. They were in position. They have the offense to win. They did not. They just did not win.
All right, let's go. 5 takeaways from the Browns' loss to the Falcons. This from Dog Pound Daily. Number 5, maybe the run defense does matter. And Eddie, my concern was that, the Falcons were going to test that. They didn't do it with Patterson, but they did it with Allgeier and Caleb Huntley. And that run defense, it's copycat league. They're going to need to get that fixed in a hurry.
Yeah, they absolutely are, especially with their schedule coming up. They have the Chargers next week. They have Eckler, and they have the Patriots the week after that. They have Harris and Stevenson. Then after that, they have Lamar Jackson as the quarterback who also rushes the ball, and the Ravens always have a good rushing attack. And then you have Joe Mixon before the bye week. So something needs to get figured out. Hopefully, Clowney and Garrett can come back, and that alleviates some of the pressure on some of these young guys. But that absolutely is paramount to get figured out, because while it's not the most important thing in the NFL, stopping the run like that, it's more of a pass-happy league. The Falcons showed how you can exploit that, and they did to the Browns what the Browns usually do to other teams, and that's just run the football down your throat and then stop us if you can't. Obviously Stefanski, mixes in the play action, which is good at times, mixes and dials up some different pass plays. But the Falcons did absolutely what the Browns should have done and did not do.
Number 4 is shutting down Amari Cooper stops the Browns' offense. So Cooper had back-to-back 100-yard games, just one catch, similar to the Panthers game. Number 3, Joe Woods is not the only problem. And again, a lot of it is the guys just got to go out and play. The defense has to play better.
Yeah, let me address that one first. It isn't just all on Joe Woods. I've been very critical of him this year, as have a lot of people that I talk to on Twitter and I've seen on Twitter. But what was he supposed to do yesterday? He had 3/4 of his defensive line missing. The secondary is just I don't know what they are. Like they need a free safety badly. They have 3 safeties that neither one of them are the free safety. Neither one of them have that skill set to be free safety, and it shows in the communication issues. That is a coaching thing, I believe. But it's also a players thing. The players have to go out there. Joe Woods is not, running plays. He's just calling the plays. The players have to execute, and they have not executed so far. And now back to the other point about Amari Cooper. I didn't realize that, so I didn't get to read any of my Dog Pound Daily teammates articles this morning. I was very busy at work, so I hadn't got a chance to read any of that yet. But that's a very good point. And like you said, similar to the Carolina game, the offense, they did win the game. The offense was what it was. Chubb, did the bulk of the work, but seeing that the past 2 weeks that Amari Cooper went for 101 yards and a touchdown in each of the past 2 games before yesterday, that's very telling. And then, AJ Terrell did a terrific job on him. He was up in his face all game. He was flustering him all game. So, shout out to him. But that is I didn't think of that before. I got the rundown earlier and I just saw it on here. If you stop Amari Cooper, the Browns offense can get a little bit stagnant until Donovan Peoples-Jones or David Njoku or David Bell or Anthony Schwartz or whoever can step up and be that true number 2. And until we have that, if teams can just single out Amari Cooper, their chances of winning are going to be a little bit better.
All right, number 2, Nick Chubb is still elite. And number 1, it's obvious why they went after Deshaun Watson. And you know what? Again, Jacoby Brissett has been just fine, but an elite quarterback makes some plays with his legs and extending plays.
Yeah, so we'll start there. That play yesterday on 4th and 3 where Brissett threw it out of the end zone. Deshaun Watson likely would have scrambled for that, and I don't know if he would have got the touchdown. He might have been, short, but he would have at least attempted it, or he would have saw Nick Chubb. He was wide open. We've seen the pictures, we've seen the clips. Nothing we can change about that now, obviously. But a player like Watson, I think that the offense is able to do more because he's able to do more, and that's no knock on Brissett. Brissett is who he is. He's played, fairly well for the most part. Couple really good games, sandwiched with some clunkers. He started off, I believe it was like 9 of 13 yesterday, and then finished, I think it was like 12 of 16 or something, or whatever it was. I forget what it was, but then he threw the pick at the end. He blamed himself. He took leadership of that, and that's good. And as for Nick Chubb, he is elite. He always will be elite until Father Time says, time's up, buddy. You're not playing on the field anymore. But I was watching yesterday, and one of the runs he had, it was a screen pass he had, sorry. He got a screen pass, and he was dead to rights in the backfield. Should have lost 2 yards. Somehow was able to get a yard. And that's something that I admire about Nick Chubb's game and what makes him so elite. Is he'll make something out of nothing. You always want positive yardage in the NFL, and he always finds a way to get that, whether it's 1 or 2 yards or he busts a 5-yard run or he busts a 20-yard run like he did on the touchdown. He is elite. His offensive line is also elite, so they deserve a ton of credit as well. But Nick Chubb, he's the team MVP so far through the first quarter of the year.
Eddie McDonald, Doug Pound-Daly, as always. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Eddie.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Eddie McDonald. Make sure you check him out, Doug Pound-Daly. That's going to do it for us on this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow on Sports for CLE.